Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to paint the focal image using elements from a napkin. So this is the Darla napkin and it's from NinnysNapkins.com. There's a link in the description box below. Now I cut apart one of the napkins, releasing the elements from the napkins, and I love the colors that are in this napkin. And so I've decided to build the wings, the one wing of the butterfly, using the floral elements. So if you don't have this napkin, as lovely as it is, you can use any napkin with smaller scale flowers that you could turn into wings. So this is a bunch of partially done gel prints, and I'm just auditioning to see what color. I like this combination with some red markings in the back, but yellow. I could also go with kind of the teals and blues as the background because, well, here's where we are with the flowers, and the right across are the complementary colors, and those will always work. So I'm going to break this page with one of my foam stamps, and I'll put a link to the video where I show how I created these stamps if you're interested. So I'm putting some black acrylic paint on my glass tabletop. My entire tabletop is a sheet of glass, which I absolutely love, cleans so well. And I'm just putting the black paint in it. I end up just stamping into the black paint to get a better impression. Now I want some marks, and the reason I'm doing the black now is I want this to be pushed back. I want that little bit of black, but I want it more faded. I don't want it in your face as an upper layer. And I'm very happy when it's imperfect. The goal isn't to make perfect stamps right now. It's about mark making and adding little bits of interest in each layer. So just to clean the foam stamps, I just spray with my Murphy's oil soap mixture and just wipe it off. Now I did gesso this 9x12 Canson Mixed Media art journal page. I've taken it off the coils because then that allows me to work flat, and I just find that so much easier. So I'm just giving this a quick dry because I'm going to colorize the background, and I've decided to go with the yellow gold background. So I'm going more in an analogous color scheme. The colors are next to each other on the color wheel as opposed to a complementary. This stencil is called Hole Punch, and it's from TCW. You can get stencils, the TCW stencils, as well as other mixed media supplies at Ninny's Napkins. There's also a TCW Shopify link in the description box below. Now here I am putting thickened gesso. It wasn't thick gesso to begin with. It just has this tendency to thicken, which I love. So I save it specifically to, and you can see it's adding very slight texture. I'm just pushing it through the stencil with my finger. Now you're not getting a perfect stencil, but that's okay. We want texture and mark. If you're following along with this tutorial, substitute a stencil that you have. I pick stencils that some way relate to the flowers that I'm going to be using from the napkin. So this is my Naples yellow, and it's just in the tub because I was finishing off the tube. And I'm going to mix that with a makeup sponge right on the page with some white gesso. I want to get variation. I want some very light areas and some darker areas. And having this pre-gessoed, the page pre-gessoed, helps me be able to move the paint around faster and blend it more on the page, because there's kind of a bit of a non-porous surface there. And here I'm getting some darker areas. And that's just some gesso. I buy the gesso and my matte medium in larger containers, and I just keep filling the smaller ones. Now I want to continue building layers, and I grab this Linked Tiles stencil, and I start off putting white gesso through, but it's not giving me enough coverage, enough opacity. So I do reach for my white acrylic paint, which is going to go on much more, with much more opacity. And you can see that it really stands out. I chose this Linked Tile stencil here because it has larger openings, and I wanted to add some pattern in here. And I'm loving, loving, loving this look. This stencil never fails to make me happy. I'm loving the background as it is. I would make this background again. For another page. Now I'm grabbing some yellow oxide. Now yellow oxide is a bit darker than Naples yellow. And I'm grabbing this Seahorse stencil. It's got some seaweed on it, and I'm using that as some mark makers. Actually, I wanted to use the other seaweed pattern because it resembled the flowers, and I just forgot. I just did the wrong one. But this one worked. It added some interesting marks. So even though it's a sea stencil, I'm using it for other purposes. So don't think outside the box with your stencils. My goal here is just to get lots of interest and lots of layers into my background. That's background 101 with art journaling. Layer it up. Now I'm testing the flower. I'm liking how that's going to look. The flower will stand out enough off the background. So here is the butterfly, and I just cut out the opposite wing just for the sake of trying to addition it, figure out which way I want it to go. So once I have decided on the composition, I am just outlining the absent wing with my Inktense pencil, and I'm choosing a yellow color because once I glue it down, that's just going to fade into the background and it's not going to show anything, but it's dark enough now. So now I want to go harvest the elements from this napkin. I want the dark burgundy flowers for the most part, as well as some of the other ones. And I am going to paint or collage my butterfly wing using these elements. Now, if you are new to water cutting, that's what I'm doing. I'm removing the unwanted parts of the napkin using a liner brush with a little bit of water. This is a great time to try this out because flowers are very, very forgiving, and especially in the application that we have today, it really won't matter so much. And I'm just going to keep water cutting flowers off this napkin, harvesting them and building the wing till I have enough to cover the surface of the wing. Before you water cut, you are going to want to remove the 2 excess plies of paint or of paper napkin. And I found that it worked best to cut out every flower and then layer them, as opposed to try to accommodate a bigger section of flowers. So you can see, you can use any napkin that has smaller scale flowers. And there we have the wings. So I went to my Winged Wonder sentiment pack and I pulled out a few sentiments that I thought would work. And here I'm just auditioning each one to see how it looks. I'm looking in the camera, the video camera, as to see which one looks best on the page. And I'm going to go with Your Wings Exist. All you have to do is fly. So now I'm ready to glue down my focal image. And I'm using Fluid Matte Meeting from Liquitex. And I'm just starting to glue them down. And I'm layering them up. Some are overlapping each other. And because they're all the same colors or similar colors, that works well. Right here I'm thinking, do I need to glue the other wing down first, or do I want that to go on top of the napkin part? And I decide that I'm going to glue the half of the butterfly down. If you don't have napkins or flowers in a napkin, you can also do the same thing with flowers from a magazine or a seed catalog. You'll get tons of great flowers. I should have taken a picture when I had it all arranged. I usually do, but I forgot. But I do have the outline of the wing drawn on there, so I'm sticking pretty close to that outline. It looks like this wing is bigger than the other one, but it really isn't. And as I look at this background now, I'm really liking the colors in it. But I am thinking right now that there's something missing in the background. So we're going to be tweaking it. And there I'm just adding a little bit of something. There was an empty space. Just cutting my sentiment, getting rid of any excess white. But I think I'm going to keep it all together this time. And I just want to make sure that this is perfectly dry before I move on. Now I want to add something to the background in that dark burgundy color. So I'm taking the cadmium red and I'm mixing it with a bit of black, and that will give me a burgundy. I'm testing it on a piece of paper, adding a little bit more black. Yep, there we go. We've got the burgundy color. So black, Mars black, and cadmium red will make a burgundy in the right composition. And I'm using this Tile Mania stencil to add some of that burgundy into the background, so it goes with everything that's in the focal image. And I chose this stencil because it looked that the pattern that's there kind of resembles the little bit of what's in the flower. My background is a little busy at this time, but remember, in the finishing stages, we are going to do some shading to make that focal image stand out. I'm just edging the outside with the burgundy paint, since I have it on my makeup sponge. And I'm just rubbing that on the textured areas. Remember the thick gesso that we pushed through the stencil? I'm just trying to bring out that pattern. Just a little bit. Now I'm gluing down the sentiment. I didn't have a brush handy, so I'm using my finger. And now I'm painting the black part of the printed butterfly. Now, this is because the photocopy wasn't that opaque, and I just wanted it dark black. I wanted that really good contrast. Now, the secret to using a liner brush is thin the paint. So I've got thickened black acrylic paint, and every once in a while you're going to want to clean the brush, because it tends to get clog up the short hairs, the tiny little brush, and use a little bit of pressure. And you know, on the butterfly, there's no other half to match it to. There's no way someone's not going to know that this is not what is intended. Oh, that looks much better with the darker black paint. And then I'm going to go over the letters in the top part of the sentiment. I want to add a border of black, and I want that smudge, so I'm using my woodless charcoal pencil. Now this one I got at Michael's, but I will link one that's very similar that I found in Amazon. I love this. It just gives that nice smudged look to edging the page or around your focal image. And you just sharpen this when you want to with a pencil sharpener. Just adding a little bit of that black on top of the textured area. Layering the colors as well as, and then shading around the sentiment. Remember, I want the focal image and the sentiment to stand out. And I don't want the white of the sentiment to be too white. Got a little too much smudge, so I'm wiping it off with a baby wipe and outlining with my black Posca pen. I was missing something in the back again, so I'm stamping with a script stamp with black archival ink. So there's lots of layers of stamps and stencils in this background. It's as backgrounds should be, just scrumptious. There'll be close-up pictures at the end of the video. You can see all the wonderfulness. Now I'm taking an Inktense pencil. This is in, I believe it's called Shiraz, but it's that burgundy color, and I'm outlining the butterfly with that, and then I'm activating it with a bit of water on a brush. And this is kind of giving a bit of a burgundy-ish halo around the butterfly to bring it out, because we want it to stand out against the background. And I'm just teasing the color, bringing it out to get whatever kind of effect I want. If you have blocks, you can just wet the brush with the blocks and just do the same thing. The nice thing about the Inktense is they are permanent once they're activated and completely dry. And I do the same thing on the other side, bringing that color around and kind of blending those two halves together. And then I'm going around the sentiment as well with that Shiraz color. Then I grabbed my Stabilo all pencil in black, but I could have grabbed my Inktense pencil in black as well. It's just what I got my hands on first. And I'm adding just a little bit of black in here, just to make it all stand out a little more. You just do one thing. Does it give you the effect that you want? If that's yes, then you can stop. If no, you can continue. Then I'm splattering with copper. I'm just mixing the copper paint with water on my glass surface, and then I'm going to splatter. And I wanted to bring that orange of the other flowers into the background. And then I do splatter with gold as well. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, please hit the subscribe button if you like my video, and then click on the bell and select the option to be notified of upcoming videos. Subscribing, liking my video, leaving a comment, all these things tell YouTube that you like my channel and helps my channel grow. Here are the close-ups. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you go build your wings and let creativity take flight.